Hello and welcome to our inspired stage of inspiration. This is so exciting to be here with you. Today, one voice, many hearts, and here she is, Jay Cordory. We had this, and you help women to shift their perspective on life and live happier, healthier, and wealthier in all areas. Simply considering an alternative point of view can unlock the greatness within you, giving you the power to embrace life's challenges and see the opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Jay Cordory on stage.
Thank you very much, and it's absolutely lovely to be here. So let's get right to it, shall we? You probably see quite confident, outgoing, happy kind of person in front of you. Yes, be kind. But I always wasn't always like this. To be fair, yes, right now I'm living a great life. I'm soon to have my own home. This family home is currently up for sale. There's food in the cupboards. I have an amazing little 9-year-old. I've got time to do hobbies, spend time with her, and I am on track to the life that I want to live, that I am building in my mind that will be mine. I've got multiple sources of income. I always look on the bright side. And any of you who do know me face to face, if we've ever met or through any of my content, you will know I'm always looking for the bright side. And I have this real belief that everything will always work out for me. And everything that I need, I have. So it might surprise you to know that between the ages of 8 and 18, I was the most picked on kid in school. I have just come out of a very controlling relationship. I was accused of pretty much having an affair every 5 minutes if I smiled at a message or spoke to somebody that wasn't that other person. I hit burnout and stress in my career after spending a fair amount of time being bitten, kicked, spat at regularly with who I was working with. I've got a very limited number of friends and I love them, but they're very limited in the sense of human connection. And I'm fairly estranged from my close family members. I've got a court summons in August and my divorce isn't finalised. But yet I can still be this upbeat, confident, awesome, without blowing my own trumpet, individual. But how? I am strong enough to sit here and to share my story when actually I probably should be a quivering wreck, crying myself to sleep every night, asking why is the world so cruel? But I'm not. And it is simply because I decided that I am not a victim. I'm not condemned to live a life based on my past or what's going on in the world around me. I've chosen to shift my mindset and to see the good in the world. And I'll be honest, it's pretty nerve-wracking sharing what I'm about to share on a public forum. And out of respect for those involved, I won't be sharing any specific names or specific places. There'll be no gory details because there's really no point. It's in the past. And as the cute little fluffy panda thing, Master Shifu, I think it was, says in Kung Fu Panda, yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. All we have is now, which is why it's called the present. It's a gift. And because yesterday is history, I can't change it. Can't do anything about it. Okay? I'm not here on this stage to get a sympathy vote with what I'm about to share. My aim with this is to inspire you to see that anything is possible, regardless of what you're going through at the moment. And all it takes is just a few simple shifts in how you see the world. But first off, let's go back to the beginning. So, 5-year-old me, cute little happy-go-lucky 5-year-old me. my parents split up. My dad moved out. We spend a couple of years going backwards and forwards, seeing him at weekends and that sort of thing. And he dropped contact at the age of 7 to give space for my mum and her new husband to bring us up, me and my little brother. At age 9, they moved us from Norfolk in Cambridgeshire, near Cambridgeshire, different county, but close enough, up to Yorkshire, almost overnight. And my favourite part of that journey was the fact that my brother fell asleep on the journey up. And when he woke up, we were in Yorkshire. Now, Cambridgeshire is very flat. There is no hills. The highest point is 50 metres above sea level. It's just flat peatland. Yorkshire is like the side of a mountain in comparison. So when he woke up, he turned around and he said, I've never seen so many stars. He was only 5, I think, 5 or 6. He's never seen so many stars. There were lights on the hillside. But he'd never seen that. So to him, it was really nice. The next day, however, I went from being one of the most happiest, loved children in the school to the most hated and picked on overnight, because we moved on like Tuesday into Wednesday or something like that. So Tuesday, I left school. Mum and my stepdad drove us to Yorkshire. Wednesday, I started a new school, picked on. And that didn't stop for 10 years. Not to mention the fact at age 14 or so, I did the good old teenage acne thing, which is why I don't wear makeup, because there's a fair amount of scarring here from a nervous picker. Don't do that. If your young children are going through acne, or if you yourself are, don't pick it, because it ends up like this. And I haven't found anything to cover it, so I gave up covering it. And now it's part of me. But at the time, being called pizza face, it's not great for a young person's esteem. Not at all. Going back a couple of years, when I was 11-ish, my stepdad threw my mum out. In the middle of the night, drunken rage, she's wandering around the streets in a tablecloth. Had a restraining order put against him. Because they were only renting the pub and looking after it, we were shortly after evicted and moved from this amazing life in this huge coach house where we had like bedrooms the size of most people's whole houses. It was a brilliant house, brilliant building, to a damp, tiny little council flat. And then moved a little bit further a few weeks later. And that was tough. Tough on my mum, because she felt a bit like a failure. We couldn't go back to where we were like from, down in Cambridgeshire. We had nowhere to go back to, so we had to make a new life. I went to grammar school, secondary school. The taunting continued. Pizza face. That went on throughout school, and I just got through it. That was that. 2005, I went to university. My original plan was to be a vet. I always wanted to be a vet in the army, or something like that. Flunked my A levels absolutely miserably. So good old me that I've always been. What else can I do instead? So I chose geography and geology because I like the earth. I like volcanoes. I met my daughter's dad while I was at uni, and it was fairly okay. Still the loner. Still didn't really make many friends. Any friendships I did have soon fizzled when I chose my daughter's dad over my friendships because he was military, and obviously not back very often. So any plans I made often got dropped at the drop of a hat. 2008, 21st birthday, organised this big night out, really good fun. No one came. Absolutely no one. So I spent my 21st birthday in my dingy little underground flat, because that was all I could afford at the time, making candles. One of those things. 2008, I graduated as well, a little bit later in 2008, and I got my first job, working landfills, and life was good, really good. Living in a tent, traveling around the countryside, being paid a fair amount of money to sit on landfills, read a book, sign a few things off, do some tests. Really good fun, really good life. 2011, a couple of years of doing landfill work. I got a full-time role working for a waste management company. Joined the Army Reserve. Great fun. Me and my daughter's dad, we'd probably split up in those 6 years, probably about 15 times. Probably should have taken the hint. Whenever we had a falling out, there was no discussion. We just, bye, whatever. And then a couple of days, couple of weeks, he'd come back, we'd make up, blah, done. So I joined the Army Reserve during one of those breaks, and it was brilliant, really good fun. 2013, we got married. 2013, I'll go back one step. I went on a scuba diving trip to the Ascension Islands down in the South Atlantic with military, because I was Army Reserve and I joined the Sub-Aqua Club, and he was in the Sub-Aqua Club as well. And last minute, he got cancelled. He wasn't allowed to go. And I went. And for 2 whole weeks, all I got was paranoia messages constantly. Like, what am I doing with 13 blokes on an island in the middle of the South Atlantic? Well, the blokes were too busy ogling the air hostesses who were sunbathing on the beach every day. They weren't interested in me because they had the respect for him. But he didn't have the respect for me. And every message was constantly like, what are you doing? What are you doing this? Are you speaking to them? Why aren't you phoning me? Well, I'm not phoning you because there's no phone signal in the South Atlantic. We could use the internet and the landline, but not mobiles. So that's when it probably should have started triggering that there was something wrong. 2014, we went round the world for our honeymoon. And my God, most amazing experience ever. But yeah, he could still be really miserable. And I won't say he ruined the trip because I didn't allow him to, in my mind. I still got on with everything. I also worked out very quickly that I was pregnant with our small child, which meant that didn't matter what I ate, it was coming back up. But I soon learned I could take one mouthful, sit back, wait 5 minutes, go and feed it to the sewer turtles, you know, and then I could eat whatever I liked. It's great. But once you work that out, it's fine. I've overcome it. I've always had that mindset of overcoming it. Had been in 2015. I never share her actual name online. I give that up to her. She's 9 at the moment. She can decide when and where her name is shared and what name she uses online. It's up to her. So I just call her Bean. She was born. I came out of my job in the waste management to be a childminder because it was more cost effective. I didn't have to put her in childcare. I could bring her up myself and himself because he was out of the army by then, working in a shift pattern. So there were days, like 3 or 4 days at a time, he'd be at home. It was great. So I started childminding. £2,500 a month to work on average 2 to 4 hours a day. And on days when I did full days, I had an amazing little lad who was 6 months younger than Bean. And on a Saturday, I had a little girl who was 6 months older. So she had a play date. It's like having brothers and sisters that you could give back if they wound you up. Brilliant. Absolutely awesome. But in 2018, we moved back to Plymouth. And I found out recently that he'd actually put in for divorce if I refused to stop childminding. I didn't know that at the time. And luckily, we moved to a house that wasn't suitable for childminding. Great space, but the toilet was 2 stories up, which isn't going to work with small children. So I did my PGCE, my postgraduate certificate in education, to be a teacher, primary school teacher. Great. 2 weeks in, that wasn't for me. Hated it. Absolutely hated it. Knew I was going to hate it, but carried on anyway because that's what he was pushing me to do, to get a full-time job. Now, many of you might think teaching, yeah, it's a great gig. You go to school at 8 o'clock, you work until 3, and then you go home when the kids go home. Nah. If you've met a teacher who works less than 50 hours a week, they're a rarity. Massive, massive rarity. Teachers are in by 7, 8 o'clock if they've got kids they need to drop off in the morning. You're lucky if they're leaving by 5. They'll go home, spend a couple of hours with the family, have a shower. They'll be back working by 7, 8 o'clock and possibly get to bed by midnight if they're lucky. It's long hours. long, long hours for not a lot of praise. Working with the kids, don't get me wrong, is amazing. But the stuff that goes on in the background of teaching, nah. But I qualified, I did it, and I got a maternity job at a special needs school. And I was given a class of 6 lovely little boys, and they were amazing. We had the firecracker, who could go off on anything, but was so much fun to be around when he wasn't having one of his moments. All the way through to this little lad who said absolutely nothing and just stared all day. They were lovely. But what happened in March 2020? COVID. And I'll never forget that first day when everything shut down. And I drove to work because, teacher, we were key workers, we had to be in. Driving to work on that first day was like driving through the city from 28 days later when he wakes up and there's no one around. Absolutely amazing. Weird, because you couldn't hear the road, you couldn't hear people, you couldn't hear cars. It was amazing. And we went into bubbles, and I got given a new bubble, which I then took on when we went back into full-time teaching in, I think, September time. And that's when it really, really started to get horrendous, is the one word I'll put it. I think between September and December, we had 2 staff off with basically grievous bodily harm. I was bitten by 3 of the class. We were kicked, we were spat at. A very close friend of mine had her hand broken. And all we got through all that time was, you're not doing the right thing. They're kicking off because you're doing it wrong. We had observations, we had people come in. We literally would end probably 3 out of 5 days a week having all 5 staff members crying in the classroom at the end of the day when the kids had gone home, so that we could get it out of our system before we took it home. And looking back on that time, how I survived that, I'm not quite sure, to be honest. When I look at it now, I mean, I've still got the scar on my hand from a bite. But when I look at it now, it's almost like it's a bit dreamy. It's almost like it's been blocked out, like a trauma that's there but not there anymore. But in the end, I ended up, I think it was the December, I went back in the January. My friend had her hand broken, so I had 3 new staff members, a very difficult class of 9 children. And within a week of going back, I got a lovely text message from my daughter's school. There's COVID in her class. She needs to isolate. So I phoned the school. I said, right, I will provide all the work. The staff will be okay. We just need an extra body. Oh, we can't do that. We're shutting down your whole class because you're not in. Okay. And you'll have to teach them all one-to-one, all 9 of them, from home while looking after your own 5-year-old. And I said, no, I will record lessons that I will send to all of them. I am not jumping on live with every single one of them all through the day. I have my own daughter to look after. Unbeknownst to me, 2 days later, we came down with COVID ourselves. And I still worked because it was the expectation. And my class was brought back in 3 days by the Friday of that week with no extra help, no support from higher up people. And they were emailing me like every 5 minutes. And I'm at home with COVID. Luckily, I'm quite a healthy person, so it was just a heavy cold. But I didn't take the time off that I needed. As soon as those COVID tests were showing negative, I went back to work to help them. 2 weeks after that, I was put on performance review. And we were like, what's going on? Just passed my teacher training. You have to do a year as a teacher trainer. Passed it with flying colours. Absolutely brilliant. Within 4 weeks of coming back to school, performance review. And 2 of those weeks I was off sick. Got the agency involved a little bit later than I should have done. Observations left, right and centre. Backstabbing teaching assistant who every single thing we said, she said the opposite and they believed her. Ended up being put on gardening leave. And that's when I started having the relationship problems at that point. They really came to the surface. because I went home on gardening leave, was signed off with stress. And at the same time, so was my daughter's dad. And his idea was that we would spend all day sitting on the sofa, cuddling, snuggling, watching TV. And I said, no, I'm going to the gym. So the paranoia grew and constant accusations. But I needed to do something. I'd spent so long working such long hours. I needed to go to the gym. I needed to go out for walks. I wanted to sit on the sewing machine and do my hobbies and just do stuff for me. I've never been a sit on the sofa and watch TV in the evenings kind of person, let alone all day. No thanks. I can think of 100,000 things better to do. So then I was having an affair, apparently, with everybody. And it got as far as the September, and I went on to supply. And my supply teaching was great fun because you never knew where you're going to go. You didn't know what class you were going into. You didn't know what age until you got there. You didn't know what you were teaching. It was such an adventure. He hated every second of it because I didn't have a full-time job. We were still putting this roughly the same amount of money in. But it carried on, and we ended up going to marriage counselling. And in early 2022, late 21 even, I started doing network marketing. I opened a Shopify shop just to bring in something extra, to not go back to do the job, because I realised I didn't want to be doing the job and I couldn't work out what was going on. So I stayed with supply and I did my little bit extras on the side. We went to marriage counselling, it's going sort of well. January 22, I was basically told, you need to stop. You need to go and just get a full-time job. You need to stop doing all these extra things. And I was like, well, that's my life. That's my choice. Caused a lot of friction. Looked at all the options of getting out. But because we had a family home, my daughter had a roof over her head, and I had been supply for 5 months. I couldn't go anywhere. Couldn't get out. So we made it work. Up until October last year, when I said enough's enough, we're done. And how I managed to do that, I will go through in a minute. But where I want to end that little trail of my life, which is the first time I've ever put that in a public forum. So yes, I haven't put the negatives in, and I've been quite upbeat about it because that's how I see it now. That's part of my journey. That's made me who I am today. But where I am right now, we moved out in February. Not paying maintenance. I'm covering all the sale, all the purchase, everything myself. So the credit cards are interesting at the moment. There's a court order in place. We've had social services on the call. The new house has been interesting. It took me a long time to pass the affordability, because apparently as a 0 hours worker, you're not entitled to even get rent before you've even got 6 months rent in the bank, which wouldn't have happened until I was homeless, which I'm not doing with a 9-year-old. That's not fair. So I've gone for shared ownership. I had to jump through hoops to get the affordability signed off. Some interesting creative tax returning went on there, in a good way, because it means I'm going to pay more tax than I should have been paying, but it's got it through. And then the mortgage application, that's been fun. We put that in May, early May, me and my mortgage broker, wonderful lady. The mortgage company said I could have £100,000. So I got approved for the house, paid all the deposits, did everything else, did all of this. And then they said, no, you can only have 93. Okay. So I dropped my share of my house. Took it back to the bank. So now I only need 86. Well, we can't give you that. 2 months we've known backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards, jumping through hoops, backwards, hoops in the air that are on fire that you have to jump through, blindfolded with a shark tank underneath you, all the hoops and everything else. And they've turned around now and said that I can have the money I need for my mortgage. There is a little clause though. So my next challenge is putting together the £4,500 I'm now short, because they want all of my credit cards paid off within 30 days of moving into the new house. So that's my new challenge. But I've been through all of these challenges And looking back, they were massive. And I never understood how I managed to get through them. But it was in September 21 when I was just going back to supply, and I'd spent all of summer not sleeping very well because how am I going to pay the bills? I feel like a failure. Everything is horrible. I'm burnt out. I'm stressed. I feel worthless. It was horrible. Late night scrolling on Facebook. You know as you do, 3 o'clock in the morning, can't sleep. So you're sitting scrolling Facebook. And I came across a program called The Science of Getting Rich from the Procter Gallagher Institute. And it was, I think, 700 UK pounds, about 900 US. And I was like, I watched an hour webinar and I said, that's what I've been missing. Because it basically explained that this whole life we've been prescribed, especially here in the first world, so UK, US, Europe, parts of China and Asia, we're prescribed the fact that you're born, you should go to school and work hard and get good grades. Then you can get a good job, maybe go to uni, get a college, whatever. Get a good job. Don't care if you like your job, but you're going to work so that you can have 4 weeks off out of 52 a year and weekends if you're lucky. If you work in retail, how those people manage, I don't know. I went into teaching. Okay, we get a 6-week summer. You spend most of that planning, so you don't have to do any work in September, and then realise that all the planning you did over the summer has now been changed. So you still have to work in the evenings anyway. But regardless, you get a job, you have your weekends, you have your 4 weeks off, you ask for time off. Possibly most of the time told no, especially if you're a teacher. You ain't taking time off in term time. Not even for funerals. Tough. You work till you retire, and if you're lucky, you can enjoy your retirement with some money until you die. That's what we're prescribed. And it's never fitted, ever. And I realised when I watched The Science of Getting Rich, and then when I downloaded the program and I paid for it and I did the course and everything else, that actually we have a choice. And all through my life, I've always made that choice. I just didn't know I was making it. And it's the choice to change what you're thinking. Now, to give you a really, really simple example, you lose your job. The fact is, you've lost your job. Now, that could be really good or really bad, and it's both. Nothing in this world is good or bad until you decide whether it's good or bad. So losing your job is the example. You could say, oh my God, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to put food on the table? How am I going to provide for my kids and mortgage payments? Blah, 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 blah. Or you could see the good side of it. I didn't really like that job anyway. Now I'm forced to go and get another job, try something else. I've been looking to leave for ages, but I haven't left. Because what if it's worse? What if I don't get another job? Oh, I'm happy where I am. You know that age-old thought that we have? We don't like where we are, but we won't move because what if that's worse? Well, I've always had the mentality of, well, what if it's better? It's them. I can't remember the film it's from, but it's the, what if I fail? No, darling. What if you fly? And that's my new mentality. And I really came to light when I watched The Science of Getting Rich. And I realised everything that's happened in my life has to have happened to make me who I am today. Yes, it's not nice at the time. It's pretty horrendous for most of it. But it was all necessary. And it was all my choice to go through it. I didn't get out of the relationship. I didn't do anything about the bullying. I just took it. I didn't come out of teaching when I probably should have in that first year. I left it that 18 months to then get put on the performance review. Now I was like, no, these kids need it. These kids need me. This kid needs me. They don't need you. Nobody in this world is irreplaceable. Full stop. You can be replaced at any point. And everything that's happened has happened for me. It was done for me. The universe giving me challenges that it knew that I could pass. And I passed every single one. Because if I hadn't, I wouldn't be talking to you now. I'd be dead. Okay? But it was all necessary for me to uncover who I am and what I stand for. And the way the Proctor Gallagher Institute explains it, Bob Proctor especially, is through the stick person graphic. Okay? So I'm just going to very quickly draw it. See? Blue Peter style, it's all ready to go. Grab my pen. The stick person is very simple. Okay? It starts with a big circle, and then under the big circle is a little circle. And they're joined together, you guessed it, with a neck. I'm just going to twist that out of the way. And obviously you've got your arms and your legs. And then this is your head. But this isn't your head, because your head is just a part of your physical body. So this represents the mind. And the mind has two halves. It has the conscious mind, quite hard to write when it's moving, the head, and the subconscious mind. And then this down here is the body. Now, very, very, very simply, whatever you think, turns into what you're feeling. So if you go back to the example about the job loss, if you think it's bad, what are you going to feel? It's not going to be good, is it? You're going to feel worry, you're going to feel doubt, you're going to feel fear, scared, everything else. That then puts your body into a negative vibration, and that body then creates the actions in your world. And whatever you put out comes back to you from the universe. So if you're thinking negative, you're then feeling negative, your vibration is low, you put out actions, and the universe sends back what you send it. Okay? Spin that around on the other side. If you're thinking positive, then you're going to be feeling good. And if you're feeling good, you're going to be in a higher vibration. Everything is going to come out of you in a much higher speed, a much better energy, which means you're putting good into the universe, so the universe sends you good back. Okay? We choose our emotions, our feelings, by choosing our thoughts. So I made a real conscious effort in late 21, early 22 to really consider what it is that I'm thinking. I got into a really good habit of, why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? What am I thinking to create that feeling? And the easiest way to start doing that is by focusing on how you physically feel. If you're feeling low, why am I feeling like this? You can ask yourself, because this physical thing is your vehicle. Think of it like a car. It's your vehicle that carries your mind around. We're spiritual. We're a spiritual being. Not woo-woo religious or anything like that, but we are a spiritual being. And this is it's just a body. The brain is the electrical switching station, and our mind controls everything else. So by working out what you're feeling, you can then work out what you're thinking. And then you have the choice. You can carry on down that negative track. Oh, he's so horrible. She said this. The world's so evil. Or you can go, no. Everything has equal good and bad in it. If this is bad right now, where's the good? What is the good going to come from it? You can start looking for the opportunities in the challenge. So when I got told no from the mortgage company, when I got told no from the affordability people, I started looking for the opportunity. And the fact that between March, when we sold this house, and April, when I started looking for my own place, and now, has been a struggle. If you look back on it, lots and lots of slammed doors, few little glimpses of hope, lots more slammed doors. But I know that big struggle is going to create an amazing opportunity. And I stay focused on that opportunity. And that opportunity is simply that I will have my own home, my own choices on what I'm doing. my own freedom. And that's your choice. You can either look for the opportunities in the challenge, or you can bury your head in the sand, decide the world is mean and against you, and just play the victim. Now, if you choose to look for the opportunity and you choose to follow your dream and you create this big goal of what you want in your life and you choose to go and get it, you are going to get pushback from people around you. It's basically what ended my relationship, because I didn't want to subscribe to doing a full-time job anymore. Wasn't interested. I like the freedom and the flexibility of being a supply. Yes, it's a bit worrying sometimes, like this week I've hardly had any work at all. That's what savings are for. That's why I run my bank account a month in advance. So the money in my bank account now is next month's. So I've always got at least a month's worth of income. So I've got another month to work it out. I've got that little voice in my head saying, yeah, but there's only one day of school term left. And then you don't earn anything until September. I'll go and earn some money elsewhere. As I said at the start of this call, I have multiple streams of income for that very reason. As an example, so I do supply teaching. I'm also a partner with Utility Warehouse here in the UK. I help people to save money on their bills, and I get a commission. I coach. I speak with people about mindset. I have groups. I run coaching programs. I do affiliate for the Procter Gallagher, so I can sell their courses. I can add a little bit onto those courses, so I can have the course, and I can add a bit more. So turn it in from a self-study to a guided course. So you've got someone to talk to about it. And I have clients going through that at the moment who are absolutely loving the fact that they have me to hold them to account, to do the work. Because you can go to all sorts of motivational speeches and everything else, and you'll go, yeah, this is amazing. This is exactly what I'm going to do. 2 days later, still doing the same thing as you were before. It's an external motivation. That's why we tell people within Procter Gallagher to study daily. Because if you're not studying daily, you're going to slip back into your old habits. You can't shift your mind and think from a different point of view if you're not feeding yourself new information. But you are going to get pushback from people who subscribe to the prescribed life. The get a good grades, get a good job, blah, blah, blah. Have weekends and 4 weeks off a year. Woo, no, don't like that. But there are other people that do. The generation above mine, my dad. My mum's a bit more open-minded, but my dad isn't. Daughter's dad isn't. He is, you do this and this is what you do. It's a full-time job. But the younger generations now are looking more at the entrepreneurial aspects, starting their own companies, flexible working. They're even talking about a 4-day working week in the UK at the moment to fit what people want that little bit better. But it's that criticism that you get from people around you that keeps you stuck where you are. But if you have a big enough desire, you have a big enough dream, you have a big enough want for something else, then use that to overcome the fear of criticism, which is exactly what I've done. And I've gone and I've got it. And yes, there is a lot of crap going on, but I feel so much better now. I feel so much freer, able to do my own thing. I am the master of my own destiny. I don't have to rely on somebody else, just me. And that's awesome. And if you're in a relationship or a partnership where you're both thinking like that, you can conquer the world. You can do it on your own, but you do it with two of you, mastermind, brilliant. What I want you to remember is the fact that on this planet, there is only one person in your entire life who you will spend 24/7 with. And it's you. So if you aren't happy, then you need to make a change. Yes, your outside world might not be very nice, but your thoughts about you and the outside world can change your outside world. You could see a derelict house and leaking walls and everything else like I lived in the council house. Or you can see the opportunity to, well, I don't want this. What do I want instead? And go and get it. Go and work towards it. People talk about manifesting money, cars, nice houses, etc., all that good stuff. I've manifested a divorce, single parenthood, and freedom to make my own choices. And my next step is to pass this information even further, even wider, to help others reach the realization. It might not be in the same format as mine because we're all individual, we're all different. But my role, my purpose now is to help people in whatever way I can to live a happier, healthier, wealthier life. And that's my mission. So I want you to have a think at the moment. What are you manifesting at the moment? Where do you want to go in your life? Forget all those thoughts that tell, well, I can't do that. Oh, I want this, but I can't have this because I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I don't have the resources, I don't have the support. Everyone's going to forget all that. Only focus on what you want. And I want to open that up now to see if anyone has any questions. Okay, I've got a couple of bits I want to add on at the end, but I want to save some time to see if anyone watching us live has any questions.
Wow, this was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. I have so many takeaways, and we have now Aaron. Maybe Aaron wants to ask a question.
When did you know the power of being decisive and being clear on the direction that you want to go?
Probably Christmas 21. So I'd started the Science of Getting Rich, and I did it for about a couple of months. I was looking at some things and talking to people about new and different kind of people. If you start looking at new information, you start accessing a different world, a different type of person. Because where you are at the moment, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you want to change your life, you have to start changing that 5 people to upgrade yourself. So when I started doing the study and started doing myself and reading a lot more books, rather than just burying my head in Terry Pratchett and Lord of the Rings and Philip Pullman and all the fantasy writers to escape the world, I started reading the personal development books, Psycho-Cybernetics, The Science of Getting Rich, which is a book, Think and Grow Rich, all of that. And it doesn't always mean rich as in money. It's rich in love, connection, happiness. Money is just kind of a byproduct that we all need to get the things that make us happier. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that was a great answer. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. I put things in the chat. I think you cannot see this from your end because we switched rooms, and I commented, and Aaron as well, in everything you said in the replay. You will enjoy this as well. And I love that you took us on a journey, the journey of your personal development, your awakening, of course. And there were so many impressive stations, and you told about when everything changed with COVID. And I remember that time, and I think my favorite moment of your of your narration was you driving through that city, and no one else was there, and everything was so quiet. I love that because I remember that time. Wow.
People remember that as a very stressful time when they were furloughed, lost their jobs and everything else. The biggest worry I had was, do I risk driving down the middle of this 2-lane highway or do I stick to my lane? Because that was what I was playing with. I was like, I've got all this road. Why do I have to stick to my lane?
What did you decide?
I was in the middle, and then I saw some blue flashing lights, and I was like, nope, back in my lane.
This is a symbol. It is a symbol to stick in your lane, to stick to your goal, not to the plan. You know this from Bob.
Exactly that. Exactly.
So important.
It was. I think COVID kind of it woke the world up massively. Some people not in a good way. Other people have just expanded massively. It's the impact it's had on our young people, the schoolgoers at the time, and the schoolgoers still now. The year 11s that leave this year were the year 7s. So the 16-year-olds were 12. They missed the transition to their secondary schools. They've had a difficult run, but they've had so many different ideas now. So many of them they're not going to uni, they're not doing an apprenticeship, they're looking at their own other options. And the world is more open to that now, and it's really good to see. And yes, like I said, so many people struggled through COVID. So many people had the worst time ever. And I feel for them. But again, it's a perspective. You can either continue to keep looking at it as the negative that they see it as now, or try and find the silver lining. There's always a silver lining. Massively.
Oh, wow. I remember, and I love that you shared that you were a teacher at that time. I saw the other side because my sons now they are, let's say how old they are now, because you can calculate back. They are 18 and 15, and my oldest one is receiving his, what do you call this? The graduation tomorrow. That means school has finished for him, whatever he decide what comes next. But I can share something what happened to us during COVID, and it was in the middle of the called semester or so. It was end of January. You
Yeah.
cool and he didn't receive the marks, the necessary marks. I don't know how I have to describe it. And they decided, it was homeschooling at that time, and they decided to put him in a lower class or something.
Yeah.
And they did it from Friday to Monday. So during now I can laugh about it, but imagine the totally new classmates, new teachers, everything. Then the whole system with the IT was not set up. It was working because all of Germany was having access to that from 1 month to the other. So it was always breaking down the things. And he was a little bit shy, like not talking, and you had to talk with your microphone and then your
Yeah.
headset, whatever. And the little one, he was hiding the headset. So he said, I have no headset, I cannot participate, something like that. So it was like a trauma for them. And I, as a parent,
Yeah, there's
thought,
so many people.
I began also my journey at the end of 2021. But before, it was like school is important, you have to do the things, and then it collapsed. So at the end, we realized it's not possible, you know. And it was so because we were all locked down and locked or shut down, you see, and at home and working. It was really challenging. So thank you for sharing your perspective, and also that you made the decision. You said you work as a supply or so, but you are not doing it full time anymore.
Hmm. I work 2 to 3 days because that's what I choose to. And I think if this has resonated with anyone, yes, I would normally work with women, especially women going through the same situation as I am, because it's easier for me to relate. But if anyone watching this wants to just jump on a quick call, just to try and reframe something in their mind that's going on, I'm more than happy. I will speak to anyone. This shy, quiet, unself-esteemed child that I was, I think that was the best thing that came out of my teaching. I learned to not care anymore, really, what people think about me. So anyone can reach out, drop me a message, connect with me on socials. I have a website, register on there, any of it. But if you need to talk, just push, send me a message. I am currently putting a group together for people in my situation, women. But like I said, I have access to so much out of that, including the science of getting rich. Okay? So yeah, anyone who needs help, I will happily have a conversation with. If I can help, I can help. If I can't, I hopefully can be able to push you somewhere that can.
Wow, thank you so much. This is amazing what you said. So please connect with Jay. I put the links there where you can find the links, of course, where they are. In the show notes, by the way, I will upload it as a podcast as well. And so you can watch it, you can listen to it, you can replay it because repetition is key. We learned this. It's so
Yes.
important. There were so many nuggets in it. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We have 5 minutes. I don't know how you wanted to tell us something or take another question, whatever. It's the
If
stage.
anyone has any questions, more than happy to answer any more questions. I'm going to remind my small child that bedtime is an hour ago.
Well, I would like to talk about, you sharing your journey and
Mm,
then you transition into the Bob Proctor, Proctor Institute and, learning from the great Bob Proctor and Sandy Gallagher. We're displaying the higher mental faculties. And one that stood out to me when you sharing your journey is perception. So the
yes,
way that you're perceiving these things, okay, of course, this is a very difficult challenge, but that perception was that shift that kept you moving forward, that kept you, getting new opportunities, and that kept you saying, okay, let me just keep pushing through, not giving up, and that there is a way, and the way will be shown. And if I just keep showing up, I know that there's an abundance of opportunities. I just need to, observe, reflect, and then think about how I can move forward in a different way.
exactly that. And the opportunities are there if we're not open to seeing them. If we are literally only focused on all the negative, all the bad, then we close our minds to be able to interpret the messages that are coming through. There's that brilliant film, Bruce Almighty, Jim Carrey, when he's like, just give me a sign. And there's all these signs popping up everywhere, and he just cannot see them because he's so intent on seeing a specific thing that he can't see the actual signs that are there. And it really highlights that point that if we're not open-minded enough and we're not open to look at different things from a different point of view, then we will never see them. And that's where the perception comes in.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I think, yeah, whenever you want to end the call or take another question, it's your stage. Yay.
I think that's it, I think.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you all, and so glad to join you all. This was an amazing event, stage of inspiration, and thank you, Caroline, for giving us this platform. Thank you, Jay, for sharing your story.
Thank you. You're very welcome. And thank you for being here. And anyone else who is watching live or replay, I look forward to going and reading all the comments when I get to see them.